videos. So it's going to be some trade wars with China, and then we're going to get into, I guess, TikTok's doing advertisements now for their products back in China for high-end products like handbags and stuff like that I saw a quick snippet of on a video that we're going to play. And then a Democratic senator from Maryland is going to El Salvador to try and negotiate um, the illegal that not illegal, the permanent resident, I believe, that was deported. I don't want to say illegal because he was here, but I guess he was in a gang. And yeah, so. And then the last video we'll probably get into is the New York Attorney General. She is getting into some hot water, so we'll look at that as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and start this first video.
The Trump administration is reportedly looking to use its ongoing tariff battle to isolate China by encouraging our trade partners to limit China's involvement in their economies. And
you know what's ironic about this? I actually said this in my very first video where I thought we could, or second video, I believe, if we got partners, you know, like Europe and the North American, and then we joined, we could definitely make things very, very difficult for China. And yeah, so it's funny that they're bringing that up a couple hours into the day. So
apparently the president's trade moves are already paying off. The White House says the administration has been presented with offers from more than a dozen countries. Listen.
You've heard from numerous administration officials. There have been many talks with countries. We've had more than 15 deals, pieces of paper put on the table, proposals that are actively being considered. And as we've said consistently, more than 75 countries have reached out. So there's a lot of work to do. We very much understand that, but we do believe that we can announce some deals very soon.
Indiana Congressman Jim Barrett sits on the House Agriculture and House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he joins us now. Congressman, good morning to you. So what do you think, what do your constituents think, from small business owners to farmers? What do they think about these tariff negotiations and where they stand right now?
I think our farmers and ranchers support President Trump and the America First agenda. And so our agriculture industry understands the need to create a level playing field and to sell our products around the world. So we could possibly use some of the income.
And that's one thing I definitely agree with. If anything, right, energy and water, and food, those are things that we should 100% be self-sufficient. Like, sure, can we do trades and negotiations and with other countries? Absolutely, but I think the most important thing is definitely to be self-sufficient. Make sure that we can actually do it for our entire population and sustain it, and then go from there, right? I don't want to say reduce it, but put into reserves, hopes, and then go from there, right? So I definitely think that we should always be self-sufficient. It's like if you're a farmer, right? Or if you live pretty much not in the city or the suburbs, you'll see people who are literally self-sufficient, don't have any kind of need for other resources, right? They've got their own wells, so they got water. If they're smart and they get solar panels, they got so much energy that they can use. And actually, you can probably sell that energy back and actually know that you can do it.
Come from these tariffs to help bolster our farmers, our producers, and he'll get other countries to come to the table and give us what we need. China's been operating as a bad actor for decades.
Yeah, well, Congressman, when it comes to China, the Wall Street Journal has a really interesting article about the ultimate goal when it comes to these tariff negotiations. Apparently, here's the quote. The Journal writes, the idea is to extract commitments from U.S. trading partners to isolate China's economy in exchange for reduction and force Beijing to the negotiating table with less leverage ahead of potential talks between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. So what do you think about that one? Many people accuse the Trump administration of not having a plan. This could be the ultimate end goal. And if effective, what does that mean for our future?
Well, I think the president has done a very good job. And as I said earlier, he's a master negotiator. And I think the techniques that he uses to bring other countries to discuss our relationship.
Like I said, you should at least give them about a year, right? Like, I know there's a lot of moving parts and things are going. We're just, but if they don't, then you can go do what you're doing. If you're on the other side, I mean, not do it to that degree, but call for heads and stuff like that, within reason.
We're right in the planting season here in the Midwest, the early stages, and putting on anhydrous and that sort of thing. And so we're interested in making sure that we get this crop out, and by doing that, it'll give us more time to resolve these tariff issues.
Okay, so Congressman, there's also this. Indiana Governor Mike Braun, yesterday he signed 9 executive orders to make Indiana healthy again, alongside HHS Secretary RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz, who's now the head of the Medicare and Medicaid office. So listen here to this.
But what I wanted to say was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like over 50% of Americans are obese, and that's definitely something that needs to get fixed real quick. Let's go back to the video. Accidentally fat fingered. Well, this is embarrassing. Fox News. This is what happens when you're just waking up in the morning.
American company.
Nope, that wasn't it. All right, well, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, guys. I fat fingered it, so.
Wall Street Journal has a really interesting article. Negotiating
where
table
we're
with
at.
less
There we go.
leverage ahead of potential talks between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. So what do you think about that? When many people accuse the Trump administration of not having a plan, this could be the ultimate end
Which
goal.
I've said from the beginning
and if
that he had a
effective,
plan.
what does that mean
He's
for
not just
our
doing all
future?
this randomly, right? It might seem
Well,
like chaos,
I
but
think the president
there's
has done a very good
madness.
job, and
There's
as
a
I
method
said
to the
earlier,
madness.
he's a master negotiator, and I think the techniques that he uses to bring other countries to discuss our relationship as well as our exports and imports is extremely important. And so I have every confidence the president is got a plan. He doesn't necessarily need to reveal that to all of us at the present time. From the standpoint, you take the leverage away from his ability to negotiate. So farmers and ranchers, we're right in the planting season here in the Midwest, the early stages, and putting on anhydrous and that sort of thing. And so
to make Indiana healthy again, alongside HHS Secretary RFK
This is
Jr.
where we are,
and Dr.
accidentally
Oz,
fat fingered
who's
it.
now the head of the
Definitely need
Medicare
to
and
get
Medicaid
into
office.
shape.
So listen here to this.
Not to go to the extreme and be bodybuilders.
The goal is to
but
empower Hoosiers to address root causes of chronic illness with preventions, nutrition, physical activity, and early screening.
That we have a generational opportunity to make this country as healthy as it should be.
I've been to a bunch of states to announce my initiatives, and this one really broke the bank. We can't be a strong nation if we're not a strong people.
Indiana seems like a healthy
Absolutely.
state, but I guess there's always room for improvement, Congressman.
absolutely, and taking the
Yeah,
sugar and the carbohydrates out of, or reducing those in some of our diets for our students and our kids is extremely important.
Especially at
and their
schools,
health is
right?
extremely important to the success of the country,
you start
as
off
well as their own
kids being
success. So
fat and
taking a
overeating, then
look at our
that's
nutrition
what's
and
gonna end
the
up happening,
programs that we support
later down the road.
with the evaluation.
New executive
So
orders are put
I commend the
into
governor
law
and,
since
and,
the
his
election.
efforts to make sure that our young people are healthy and have
I know we've done something
exercise that they
federally, but
need and the opportunity to grow
whole
and be strong.
difference between
Congressman,
federal
thank you for your time this morning.
and state.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart.
So that was the trade wars with China. And then let's get into this one. Piqued my interest because I don't use TikTok. So
Beverly Hills.
I know people are losing their minds over it. But I stopped using TikTok until it's an American owned, or at least the TikTok that we use is owned by us. I'm off of it. Just too much BS with the site. I mean, especially if you read the fine print, it's you think we're bad here in the States. It makes us look like saints.
With that part of the story, Gina. Laura, I don't know if you've seen the videos, but they are wild. And I got to tell you, many American consumers are loving it because why not? Who doesn't love a good deal, right?
Some say as long as there's a tag saying made in China, the bag can never be luxury. However, in fact, more than 80% of the luxury bags in the world are made in China.
I want to know who's the Chinese factory behind Nike, Adidas, Fila, and UGG?
Until all
over TikTok, Chinese influencers are taking viewers
countries.
behind the scenes, exposing what they claim is a real origin of high-end luxury goods. The viral videos are shaking up traditional luxury branding and destroying consumer trust, revealing that many designer products are actually manufactured in Chinese factories, with only the labels staged.
All right, I don't know who, like, I mean, me personally, I've always known most high-end things are made in China, right? It's cheaper to make over there, and less regulations, especially the higher-end luxury goods like bags and stuff. But I don't know why that's a surprise. I'm surprised people find that surprising. What, you make the bags for like 50 cents, a dollar maybe, and then you sell it for like couple thousand. I'm sure that bag probably goes for like, I don't know, a couple grand, right? Which is ridiculous. It's like the size of a coffee cup. But yeah, that I've never been surprised by that. I mean, like I said, most things generally are made in Asia, maybe South America. Just more cost effective, right? So good business, but definitely makes us weaker in terms of that.
Stitched on somewhere else. All of these videos suddenly started showing up all over social media after President Trump announced high tariffs on China. While many American consumers are seeing this as a huge score on design.
It could be counterfeit or imitated products as well. So in that case, there's no consumer protection. These are not the authorized.
You know, it's funny. I actually watched a documentary on this, right? So when they say counterfeit, it really isn't. But the way it works, I guess, is so the guys that make Gucci bags or whatever, for example, right? They'll have their factory in China. They'll make it from a certain time, right? From like, I don't know, say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then they'll have people work after and not be within the scheduled hours. And anything after 7 would be considered counterfeit. Made the same way, used the same stitching. Everything is pretty much exactly the same. But the time difference, you know, and that's not all companies, right? It's not all brands, but that's one of the videos I watched like a couple months ago, and I found that interesting. Like literally the only difference is the time. But yeah, I'm sure he might say something about that. So it'll be funny to see what he said.
Take Louis bag. I take it everywhere I go.
I'm telling you, that's
I love
exactly
it.
the same bag as like,
you know, years ago I had the opportunity to act where they had nothing but floors of Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Chanel, Nike, Adidas, Apple products. And that's where I learned directly from the vendors that, hey, this is the same thing. You're just paying for a label and repackaging in the U.S.
Just like I said, bro, it's ridiculous.
Now, if you order directly from a Chinese factory, you don't have to pay a tariff, and that only applies to commercial imports. So that is a huge draw, Laura. Did you by any chance get to see any of this merchandise?
Like, why would that even?
No,
I mean,
these are just videos, right? The only merchandise I saw was the purse from Jasmine, which looks really beautiful. And she said she spent a couple of $100, and that, of course, retails for thousands of dollars. Right.
Like
so it's a marketing campaign. They're hoping to lure you in, and it certainly does draw you in. But usually, these designers will tell you that you have to look at it very closely to see the stitching, how the zipper works, all of that usually indicates the quality of the garment. So maybe at some point we'll get to see some of these that are supposedly directly coming to the consumer.
I went crazy.
Okay, a Democratic senator is flying to El Salvador today.
I saw this yesterday. This is nuts, bro. Like, and this, like, I'm not a Democrat or Republican or anything like that. I guess you would say I lean more towards the center on most things, But I mean, bro, the dude's not even a U.S. citizen, and the fact that we have an actual senator going to El Salvador to like free this guy when we actually have real Americans, soldiers, civilians, in other countries that are actually being held as prisoners is, I don't know, man. That just pisses me off. So.
To advocate for a man.
Jenkins live with more on this from Washington. Griff, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bob. In Brooke, that U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen is in the air now as we speak, headed to El Salvador as a federal judge in Maryland says she's investigating whether the Trump administration complied with her order to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnes says she issued a clear order, which the Supreme Court backed. The Trump administration doesn't see his deportation as a mistake. Officials argue the word facilitate doesn't require them to bring him back, and they have no plans to do so.
There was no mistake that was made. He's an illegal alien.
Abrego Garcia's wife accused the administration of playing games.
Enough is enough. My family can't be robbed from another.
Says he plans on traveling to El Salvador today.
I don't even know if we announced this, but I am planning tomorrow to go to El Salvador to work to bring him home. The Trump administration themselves admitted in federal court
it's never going to happen,
that
right?
he was wrongfully abducted from the United States.
The Trump administration.
It's so unlikely that he would actually be able to do anything. I mean, especially when President Bukele said there's no way he's sending him back, essentially. Like, he didn't say in those words, but pretty much, right? It's just a waste of taxpayer money. And it's all for show, right? It's just a dog and pony show that citizen, right?
Still insists he's an MS-13 gang member, despite not charging him. He is not a U.S. citizen and came here illegally from El Salvador. Now, the administration is touting a new plan, one aimed at encouraging.
So I will make a correction, because I think I said earlier that I believed he was a permanent resident. So I guess I was wrong on that. So, I mean, even more reason for him to be deported, right? Like I said, at the end of the day, if you're not a citizen, you have no legal right to be here. I mean, we can remove you for whatever reason. When I say we, I mean the government, right? For any reason at any time. You overstayed your welcome, or we no longer need you or want you here, go back to your country. It's as simple as that. Again, different for citizens. So, yeah, what a disappointment so far.
Urging so-called self-deportation.
What we want to do is we're going to have a self-deportation program. We want the people to go out, come back as legal.
And all this is on a fast track. Judge Zinnes did not mince words, telling the Trump administration lawyers to cancel vacation plans, giving them until next Wednesday, April 23rd, to complete depositions, explaining why Garcia has not been returned to the U.S. Meanwhile, Brooke and Bob, we have no indication. It's not clear whether or not Senator Van Hollen will even be allowed inside that El Salvador prison or get to meet with.
You know, and the crazy thing is, right, like, even if the judge like tried to hold them in contempt or anything, it's like it wouldn't matter, because Trump's just gonna pardon them. I mean, I feel like a lot of this is just wasting our money even more than what Doge has found out in terms of like the fraud, waste, and abuse. So yeah, I don't know, man, this shit's crazy.
Any officials?
You know, I also saw, Griff, that it's maybe not even going to stop with Van Hollen. I saw Cory Booker, other members of Congress, senators saying they also want to go. They were asking the GOP to authorize a congressional delegation. They want to send a group to El Salvador.
Great point, Brooke. This is catching political.
So I just thought about this. They're trying to do the same thing they did in the beginning when they were like trying to boycott Doge and like go to what was it? For the I forgot the name. The people who were like helping all the foreign aid and stuff. They're trying to do the same thing, right? They're trying to ambush the president or go there and show force. And I just feel like that's such a waste, man. And unfortunately, people aren't going to vote these guys out because it's the same old story over and over again. I tried. We did our best. Don't forget to vote next time.
side, as many as a dozen Democrats may make a congressional delegation trip. You had two officials, Democrats Max Frost and Robert Garcia, sending a letter to the Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, requesting authorization for a co-del of Democrats to go down ASAP to El Salvador. We'll see where all this goes. But one thing is, there's two tracks here, a legal track and a big political track playing out right before our eyes.
Right, and it's not as if they have an appointment with the president of El Salvador. He's even said he doesn't have the power to do anything, so at the end of the day, it could end up just being a photo op with these delegations going there.
If you wanted to,
we'll see what happens, Griff. I know you have another report coming up. We appreciate it. We'll check in with you later.
But yeah, I just thought that was fucking interesting and funny. All right, and I believe there was the AG video. What was it? Letitia James. I guess DOJ is getting involved now, so let's see. There we go.
The President of these United States.
Let's go from the beginning.
It's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law. The President of these United States is not above the law.
Crazy.
No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules.
Please sue
It's
him
crazy
for
too.
us.
It's Trump actually got convicted and everything, right? So he actually went.
And now the Trump Justice
did the
Department
right thing.
may be a
You
pain
could say,
in
right?
her,
But
you know what.
Everyone else has been
The
skating
Angle
and
has
skirting
obtained
all the
shocking allegations
legal
leveled by the Trump administration against
fires that
New
they
York
should have
Attorney
gone through.
General Letitia James. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has sent a criminal referral to the DOJ accusing James of mortgage fraud. In a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Director Bill Pulte says James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms.
I did not see that
He
coming.
cited a property in Virginia.
Of all the things that they would have got her for, I did expect that. Like, come on. Seriously? Jeez.
Virginia that she's allegedly claimed as her principal residence, and a property in New York that she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of the required, instead of a 5, which Pulte says means she was able to get a different type and more favorable loan.
Of course.
Joining me now is Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor and law professor at GW University. Jonathan, mortgage fraud is rampant in the United States. There's all sorts of fraud that's rampant. There's disability fraud that they've vowed to crack down on in the Trump administration.
All of us know
but
about
this
now.
is another thing that they have vowed to crack down on because it costs real
237
money.
years old
Your
getting,
reaction
Social
to these
Security.
allegations?
Well, obviously, the irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. And among the charges that were brought in New York, in not just Section 1014, 60 seconds of a search was their principal residence in order to get loans. So this is well-tread areas for the Justice Department. As for James, if we apply the Letitia James standard that she...
It's funny, right? Because she's a lawyer, right? So she probably knows the ins and outs. But you definitely can't, like, if you falsify federal paperwork, right? Or forms, like, that in itself is just... You kind of dug yourself into a hole. Even if it is somewhat... I don't want to say a loophole, but like a gray area, and you can kind of somewhat get away. Someone who's on that level and you're always in the public eye, it's like you're not doing yourselves any favors, because you're, especially if you're going against someone powerful, your background and your life is gonna come up, and it just doesn't help your case. So yeah, it's kind of ironic to see it. So
created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward. What the administration is saying is this was not her principal residence. In fact, as a New York elected official, she had to say that her principal residence was in New York. This was an out-of-state residence.
True.
But also, they claim that in some of these forms, she actually states that her father is her husband in order to file as a married couple. So there's a lot of those questions.
Right,
and as you know, the Supreme Court just stated earlier in March in a case called Thompson that they want to see.
I mean, I don't know if anything's happened there, right, in that regard, but bro, just even putting it on paper, like, why? That's weird, bro. Like, I guess people don't have any principles or morals. Like, fucking Democrats, bro. Like, the more I see it, it just makes things so much worse.
The knowing false statements under sections like 1014, not just misleading statements. These are misleading statements. Either it's your principal residence or it's not.
Or it's not.
Either you're married to your father or he's your father. So they can get this can satisfy the Thompson standard.
I guess in some places.
Yeah, well,
man,
Jonathan, we reached out to the
husband,
DOJ,
not in the US,
and
right?
they have no comment on this referral. We also reached out to Attorney General James, who did not respond to us either. So again, everyone wants the best interest rate you can get. I understand that. But you know, she's a lawyer. She knows that when you sign a mortgage application, that mortgage.
I'm not paid by anyone, right? I don't have any advertisements or sponsors, but SoFi's their housing mortgage rate has dropped. So I got a notification the other day. So check that out if you guys are interested in getting houses or looking at getting houses here soon. Just read for that.
Mortgage application, if you're borrowing money. If you're not borrowing money, nobody cares whether it's your principal residence, except, you know, where you file your taxes. But she decided to state that that was her principal residence, knowing it was not her principal residence. I didn't even know she had property. I mean, I guess she had property in Virginia and she has rental or investment property in New York. That's fine. But in the New York matter, to get the favorable rate, the building could only have 4 units. But for, it looks like its entirety, the entirety of this building, it had 5 units, meaning it was in violation of the actual loan agreement. And again, this is not a novel application of the law, Jonathan. As you stated during the persecution of Donald Trump, she was using all these novel applications of law to go after him. This isn't novel.
I will say this, though. I mean, it's one thing when you loan federal forms, but I don't know if the loan and everything was done through the bank. I think that's more of a bank ban. Obviously, it's still fraud and stuff, but I don't know if that's really like scamming the government itself. It's more like scamming the bank, which that's an entirely whole set of new problems. So, yeah, just thought that was interesting.
This is a black and white issue. You either did or you didn't.
But that's like how I see it.
Right, and this has been prosecuted in the past. Now, we have not heard her side of this, but these documents themselves are quite damning. It's hard to see how the residences listed were her principal residence. The business about her father is just bizarre. Now, I'll note that one of the things that Letitia James stressed in her case against Trump is that Trump had to review documents that were filed in his name. And so she dismissed the argument that this was something that Trump's people put together. She said he's ultimately responsible. So they allege that she gave a power of attorney in a couple of these instances. But according to her own standard, that's not enough.
Then
well, Professor, the referral cites the case against the former Baltimore City prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby, because she was sentenced to a year in home confinement for lying about her finances to make early withdrawals from retirement funds during COVID, and then fraudulently claimed that her own $5,000 was a gift from her then husband as she closed on a Florida condo.
Being a lawyer, bro, and house arrest. That's crazy.
The idea that
I mean, I know it happens, but it's still
Marilyn
funny
Mosby, and then so The idea that again, this is just no one ever goes after politicians for these types of.
This is insisted that these technicalities matter and that the powerful should not be given a free pass. Well, that bill has come due in this case. She's going to have to deal with this filing. I'm honestly just not sure how you defend against this unless you say that these are fraudulent documents.
Jonathan, I have to raise this because the Democrats, you know, when this really starts to blow up, which it should after the show, they're going to say, look, aha, see, this is a revenge presidency. They're weaponizing the DOJ against Democrats, so it's a tit for tat.
Completely different. If you're actually breaking the law, I mean, you can look at it however you want, and you can say that, oh, they're coming after us because we did this. No, if you broke the law, I mean, they're going to come after you. That's how it should be, right? If you did something wrong, and especially if you're supposed to be someone that's held to a higher standard, like military, like politicians, like law enforcement, you're definitely shouldn't than there is on regular civilians, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
Do you see that as a potential vulnerability here?
Well, we are certainly living in that age, but the fact is James herself rejected that argument made when she brought, in my view, a ludicrous case in New York. That case was something that ultimately resulted in a grotesque ruling. By the way, the timing here is not good. We're waiting for the appellate decision to come down. It's been a very long time. Each day we're looking for the appellate court to issue the review.
And on the ruling, when he was sentenced, so I believe 2 months with no word back. So
of us expect that it will not go well for James,
especially considering
but having this pop up in the news just couldn't be great for her team. I'm sure they are really in a very tight fetal position right now.
Yeah, well, Pulte was on this show saying that he was going to get to the bottom of all fraud, waste, and abuse in his department, and there's a lot of it over there, and maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg for mortgage fraud across the United States involving, in this case, allegedly Letitia James. Jonathan, thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
I'm sure Elon did that by design, but it's always still funny to see. Alrighty. Let's see. All right.
Okay, with that, let's bring in John Yoo, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and law professor at UC. If this President Trump wants to do his own executive action that would reverse an executive action by President Biden, she says you can't do it en masse. It's got to be person by person, which obviously would take a really long time with over 500,000 individuals.
Where people get a visa or they get some kind of permanent legal status to stay in the country.
Exactly.
In those cases, you do get a hearing before you're deported. This is under a different power that presidents have called parole. Parole specifically says in the law that for humanitarian reasons, the president can let some people into the country, but it confers no permanent legal status as an alien. Your status is unchanged, and it even says
you're just here because
the Department of Homeland Security can end it at any time. You have no right to stay in the country, and your status is just the same as it was. So actually, in this case, I would say that the president can terminate all these admissions under the parole program. That's what Congress said. And then if any of them have some kind of right to stay, for example, they got married to an American or they got a green card while they were here, they would have to go to court and show that they don't have to leave.
Exactly.
So I think this judge has gotten it backwards. And I expect that ultimately a higher court will reverse her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you, if you believe the higher court might reverse. There's also indications that a lot of these people put false information on their applications for this program to begin with. Would that also automatically put them in a pile that means that they were not eligible for this parole because they misrepresented themselves?
Of course, if you lie on your papers when you come in the first place, then you don't dare for humanitarian reasons to give special cases a chance to come in.
And normally you go to prison for that if you're a citizen, but because you're
President Biden appeared to use it. For example, as we've seen in other cases challenging Trump's agenda, where district judges spread out all around the country rather than just decide the nationwide
we lost that one. Let's do the
pursuing
next
a
one.
presidential policy.
These policies were originally designed to be person-by-person, case-by-case. New York Democrat Richie tore a different issue, the precious.
And yeah, bro.
Without due process, what stops Donald Trump from wrongfully labeling any American as a non-citizen gang member and abducting?
For a prison, maximum prison at that. As if have probably later today.
Suggestion at the White House the other day: turn Americans, to send Americans, I should say, to an out-of-country prison. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, we got black sites.
I don't know if we need to do that. Do you not have any of these exaggerated worries that they're going to run them for more than 200 years? I don't see why this congressman, who can always do something about this if he wants, he can propose legislation, he can have oversight, thinks that this is...
Now, the images go from 4,000 down to a couple of hundred. So now the president has turned his attention with Attorney General Pam Bondi to addressing some of the people who got in over the 12, 20 million, whatever the number turns out to be, and sending them back.
Thanks, Martha. Great to see you, too.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.
Damn, I just missed it.
So 2 American aircraft carrier groups are now in the Middle East. The USS Bowl, military weapon. He said he wants an agreement, but this is clearly the backup plan.
I believe
his special envoy.
I believe China actually just got their nuclear power plant approved. I think it's in its final phase. That's another video I'll get into as well later today. But I believe that just recently happened. So,
Steve Witkoff meeting with Iran's foreign hawks are set for this weekend, but he says you have to keep your options open.
If we have to do something very harsh, we'll do it. And I'm not doing it for us. I'm doing it for the world. And these are radicalized people, and they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Does that include a potential strike on Iranian nuclear facilities?
Of course it does.
You know, it's funny. There's actually a movie about this.
Says the president. With that, we bring in retired 4-star General Jack Keane, former Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and now Chairman of the Institute for the Study of War and Fox News.
Their premise was they hooked up their tech to the power supply for the AC, and they essentially gained access to computers and overloaded it, and then blew up their underground nuclear facility. It was a Gerard Butler movie. It was actually really, really good. I'd recommend it. I'll get the name for you guys here in a bit and let you know at the end. But yeah,
where the U.S.
packed this a little bit. Just a few weeks ago, the supreme leader of Iran was refusing to go to negotiations at all. His advisors, what with
the movie's called Kandahar,
convinced them that they should. And what's motivating them? Well, number one, their economy is in the tank. Their currency, the rial, is really spiraled out of control, and they got inflation somewhere in the neighborhood of 30%. The middle-class elites are now being affected by it, and even the aristocrats, if you want to call them that. The people who are really tied to the regime, have fancy cars, do designer shopping, etc. They're also having problems. So Iran feels more economic pressure than they have in some time. Number one. The second motivation is if you don't dismantle the program, then something bad is going to happen. You're likely going to be bombed. These are his words. And what that really means is, and is written by these guys, Martha, because they have a playbook that they opened up again, and it's to replay the negotiations they did with Obama in 2013 that led to the disastrous 2015 deal. What am I talking about? They're saying, look, we'll reduce all the highly enriched uranium we have down to a very low percentage like we had back in the so-called nuclear deal, the JCPOA. In other words, we're not going to build a nuclear weapon. We're just going to use it for civilian commercial nuclear power. Of course, that's a bold-faced lie. And they're thinking the Trump administration is going to buy this. After all, in 2018, Trump pulled out of that very deal. And then in 2019, when the North Koreans did not dismantle their program after saying they fully intended to do at a meeting in Hanoi, Trump got up and terminated the meeting and walked away. Yep. So here they are trying to convince the same administration, obviously with some new players, but the president is the key here, that the fact that we're going to lower the enrichment and just use it for civilian power is a distinction that no longer has a difference. Because why? 10 years later, the Iranians can manufacture using advanced centrifuges, highly enriched uranium very rapidly. So they could go to a secret site if we agree to that deal, again, rapidly build the capability they have right now, where there's weeks away from having 6 nuclear weapons is what analysts think they're on the path to. So here they are putting in front of the Trump administration something that they are replaying from the Obama administration. It's not going to work.
And they're in a very different position now than they were then as well, as you point out. Did you have a final thought there, General? Sorry.
What's on the table is dismantle your program, give up the materials, destroy the deep buried secret sites, no longer use ballistic missiles to be able to deliver these systems, stop your malign and aggressive behavior in the region. That's what's on the table from the United States' side. And if not done, then the obvious is going to take place, that there'll be some kind of a strike on their nuclear enterprise.
Well,
and certainly the administration doesn't want to do. Hopefully they would, but I doubt seriously.
For that, in some places in Iran and certainly in Israel as well, to take this threat out, and we will see how these talks go. General, thank you very much for getting us up to speed on the background here. Thank you, sir.
And that would
hey,
work.
Sean Hannity here.
And that would actually work twofold in terms for Israel, right? They'd get more weapons, more money, more resources, and they'd be able to deal with Iran, which is always one of their goals, right? Which, like I said, at the end of the day, if it works for us, I'm all for it. If it makes America better, stronger, safer in the overall grand scheme of things, especially internationally, all for it. All right, we're going to do this last video, and then we'll call it for this morning, and then we'll restart probably around 7 or 8 tonight. There we go.
Well, the Department of Justice has warned if you attack a Tesla, they will find you. They just charged an Albuquerque man in connection with firebombing a Tesla dealership. So
you know, the
DOJ means it.
The other crazy thing about attacking Tesla dealers, bro, they're one of the biggest, like, people don't see them as a tech company, but Tesla is a tech company. The amount of data and information they get, not just from Teslas, but all their other technology is ridiculous. And you're going to attack Elon Musk and Tesla, and that stuff is just idiotic, bro. They're going to find you. They're going to know where you are. And, I mean, there you go. Going to jail for something that wasn't really worth it. So.
And while nabbing him for that attack, they were then able to link him to another crime, burning and vandalizing the state's Republican Party headquarters. That suspect is a self-described queer scientist. There is his mugshot in his bright blue or purple lipstick.
There's no way he's an
According to the DOJ, he has social media postings which support a variety of left-wing causes, and he even bashes police. Now he's facing up to 40 years in prison. He's accused of torching several vehicles. I mean, look at the one in the middle of your screen. You're never going to drive that again. Vandalizing a Tesla dealership. That was in February. Crazy, graffiti spray painted on the building with words like "Die Elon" and "Die Tesla Nazi." Disgusting. Authorities then connected the dots to last month's attack on the New Mexico Republican Party's headquarters.
That's crazy too. Like, okay, I could see someone's point attacking like the actual vehicles and stuff like that, but the fact that you would actually attack the stores and risk possibly fires spreading badly while people are in there, like, that's just a whole nother level of you're just a piece of shit, right? Because just because you don't like something, you're pretty much willing to kill someone over it. That is just a worker, that's just an employee that is making a living for their family. So, yep, I hope they throw the full weight of the law down on them. So, and anyone that is like them.
In Albuquerque, that building was also left vandalized with a message reading, ICE equals the KKK.
Not even close.
I mean, Lily, where are we right now?
You know, as a business owner, I find this quite concerning. And as a public board director, we're now having to manage different layers of risk that we never thought that a corporation was going to be a target for political culture wars. And that's the reality that we are seeing. I think that puts at risk the ingenuity and the American hustle of entrepreneurship and innovation, because all of a sudden, if your politics are not right, but maybe your brain power is, you're not going to be supported. In the case of Tesla, one of the most innovative companies in the world, yet maybe even the employees themselves feel now ostracized, or they may not be able to acquire the best talent because people are truly afraid.
Yeah, and here's a good way to protest, right? I saw a guy actually recently driving a Tesla. And you know what? People like the cars. It's a great car. But his bumper sticker read, I like my Tesla, but I hate Elon, right? If you're going to protest or dislike someone or disagree with someone that's like a business owner like that, that's a perfect way to do it, right? I mean, you're getting your point out. You're doing it in a safe, reasonable function, and I think that's the right way of going about things.
Afraid of what does it say, what does it mean because of these extremes. So I'm concerned of what this is doing to the business climate and where corporations stand in this era of culture wars.
Look, everybody's got a lunch hour, I suppose. I don't know. We don't really get one in news. But if you're working a job, how do you have time to do this sort of thing and burn stuff down and make the threats and do all of that? I mean, have we made life too cushy?
Well, I guess if it's almost your religion, you make time for it.
Oh, wow.
And this is a priority for some people.
Yeah,
I think people are looking for meaning in their lives. And unfortunately, in this case, a dirtbag loser like this decides that he's going to go commit felonies. And I think it's very important that people like this and whoever it was who committed arson at the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, you go down the list, all of these people need to have the book thrown at them. It feels like there's a ramping up of political violence, almost a normalization of it to some extent. And the only way we can fight that, aside from sitting here and saying it forcefully, is for the government to come down like a ton of bricks on people who do this and put them away in prison for a very long time. And it's called deterrence. It has to happen.
Yeah, what you're talking about is putting something new into the ecosystem that we managed as a nation to cook up, where really it's mostly Republicans, but now we've got a Democrat under threat as well, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, too. That was a particularly very dangerous situation. Some of these others are. I mean, Kellyanne, we have to make a change. But this is involving more and more people almost every day.
It is. We don't want it to become normalized as radicalization, particularly by the left online of people. But you're absolutely right, Guy. Governor Shapiro and his family in Pennsylvania, that was so horrific. And now this cutie, this cute of a person in his mugshot in New Mexico. So he firebombs and attacks a New Mexico GOP headquarters as well. And the New Mexico Democratic Party comes out and mentions January 6th. They're so obsessed with their one-note Johnny existence, instead of just saying what we all said about the idiot in Pennsylvania trying to hurt the Shapiro family, the Democratic governor. Instead of just saying this is always wrong, we want to make sure people know, even if we don't support Elon Musk, it should not be an occupational hazard to serve the government at any level, that you have to face this. Tulsi Gabbard is facing it with this lunatic saying her days are numbered. Congresswoman Nancy Mace and her family, Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina, the guy who said, I want to be the person who, gets to her. This is domestic terrorism.
And she was attacked. She was actually attacked.
I'm glad A.G. Bondi said what she said. I'm going to say it again. When I got to the White House in 2017, I had 24/7 Secret Service around the clock, and I had kids in the house ages 7, 8, 12, and 12 because these lunatics are everywhere. And I like the fact that we show them, we name them. And Pam Bondi said this guy's facing 40 years.
Wow. You know what, Kayleigh? There seems to be, and listening to you talk there, Kellyanne, I could hear it. There is a tie if Democrats are not careful. People aren't going to forget that you actually hitched your ride on the wagon of this hate.
Yeah.
And this suspect right now that they're looking at and could potentially tie two crimes like this together, that is the definition of domestic terrorists. if somebody's hurt in all of that, it takes it up even further. And we pray that no one else is. Already people have been injured and things like this.
Yeah, but more could have been injured. They searched this guy's residence. They found 8 other incendiary devices. They found materials to create additional incendiary devices.
Like
they found a
stencil
cocktail that said ICE equals KKK, as you saw painted there.
Yeah.
Who has a stencil that says that? First of all, who made the stencil? That's what my head went to. That's crazy in and of itself. But when this guy, I think he wanted to get caught. I think he wanted his name to be said. I think he wanted to be glorified by some folks. He drove the same car to both incidences. He used the same incendiary devices in both incidences. And I'm sure he knew he was on camera. Teslas have cameras. Tesla facilities have cameras. The Republican headquarters had surveillance cameras.
Like I said earlier, Tesla's one of the greatest, tech companies, bro. So just to do it, bro, at that point, you might as well just do it and then take yourself straight to jail, because that's pretty much what you're doing. They already know where you're at, or are going to find you fairly quickly.
Cameras, at least on the streets there. He wanted to be caught, and that is a sickness. And we must categorically condemn this. And I'm glad to see Bernie Sanders doing it and condemning Tesla attacks, Ro Khanna, and I'm glad to see Trump and J.D. Vance doing it with Shapiro. We all need to do it. Follow the examples of those 4 leaders I named.
Well, that's why in these instances, you heard me on the couch in the commercial. I don't want to say his name. I'll say Rachel Morin's name. I'll say, Laken Riley's name. I'm not going to say that man. He knew he wanted attention when he put that blue lipstick on and went and did potentially what he did.
You could just call him New Mexico scientists like Marilyn Dad. That's what the Democrats do.
Oh,
that's funny.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-host Harris Faulkner
I'm going to call it a day. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys later.